All right, we are live for another Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate here on the Arrow Title Services page. And we come at you live every other week with amazing tips in the real estate industry from local industry professionals, realtors, and lenders, where they showcase and tell you guys about a new topic each week that we speak. And this week's topic is a really hot topic. I mean, every week it's a hot topic, but this one's a really hot one where we are going to be talking about how to make competitive offers in this hot industry right now. Real estate's on fire. We all know this. If you've been listening to any of our videos, then you're aware. If you're not aware, real estate's on fire, and it's very busy. So we're going to talk about these different competitive offers, some of the strategies that people have been using from these local professionals, what we've been seeing on the back end, how it all kind of correlates. It's always great information. So make sure that if you guys are just tuning in, that you guys are listening through, because the first portion, we're going to talk about the topic that we have today. The second portion is going to be the local professional is going to tell you their number one top tip of the week, which can vary throughout the weeks because things are changing all the time. And then the third aspect is any announcements that the local professionals have, because there are just all things happening all the time. So it's always great information throughout. If you miss any bit of it, you can always go to our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services, and watch the replays. And we have all of our previous Thursday's Top Tips in Real Estate there. So we are going to get started and talk about this awesome topic about how to make competitive offers in this real estate market, specifically for the Treasure Coast of Florida, because we are local professionals in this area. And we will start off on the realtor side of things with Eric. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. And how would you like to start off this topic?
First of all, thank you, Lucy, for this platform. Eric Griemsmann with eXp Realty. A couple of different strategies that I use for my clients when I'm putting in an offer to be competitive in this market is we looking at a couple different things. Escrow deposit. How much are we putting down? Are we putting $1,000 down? Because that $1,000 escrow deposit in this market right now probably is not going to fly anymore. It used to be a substantial amount for people to move forward with showing interest in a property, but nowadays it's more or less 3,000 to 5,000, or however much that you and your client come to an agreement that they can afford to put down. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is inspection period. Winning deals with inspection period used to be that we could have 10 to 15 day inspections. In this market, not happening. I usually, for me, is a 5-day inspection period. I can get done an inspection within 5 days and have an answer for the seller by that point. A third thing is including what I called an escalation clause. So what an escalation clause is you are allowing your client to say, hey, we're going to put X amount of dollars down, but we're willing to come up to X amount of dollars over our offer by a certain amount of increments. So hypothetically, for layman's terms, is we offer 200,000, but we're willing to pay 210,000 over the highest, $1,000 over the highest and best offer. So it's $1,000 increments up to that $210,000. So those are just like a couple strategies that I use for my clients to win deals in this market, and it seems to be very done very well. And a lot of people a lot of those contracts are getting accepted with that.
Awesome, Eric. That is great insight and great tips to start off a very good topic. And just for those, if you are watching and you happen to be like a first-time home buyer and you're not quite sure like how the deposits work and such like that, a lot of times people get confused with that amount that you're putting down. That does goes towards closing costs. So a lot of times people get confused. They think that they're putting, $5,000 into the house and then they have separate closing costs or whatever it might be. So just a little bit of a clarification clarification there from the title side of things so that you guys, if you are first-time home buyers, that you know. So great information though, Eric. Thank you for starting us off with that. And we will head to Alannah, another esteemed realtor, and we will hear from her.
Thank you for that glowing intro, Lucy. Alannah Ghazal with eXp Realty, and I'm super stoked about this conversation. There's a lot of great points that you brought up, Eric, and I am loving the escalation clause right now in this market. It's a great way to illustrate the level of interest that our client has, right? A couple of things to add to that, though, that make this all the more valuable that Eric just touched on. The agent's ability to reach out to their contractor partners and go, listen, I'm writing an offer right now. What's the best slot you can give me? What's the earliest we can get this done? How competitive can we be? That sort of proactive behavior is definitely a make or break when you're writing up competitive offers in this market. And I have to say, like, there's nothing fail safe about the process, but it's a huge benefit when you have your people lined up, when you've conveyed adequately to your client that you have these people lined up, and you find out on the front end before you've ever written an offer, are you ready to use the contractors that I'm familiar with? Or do we have to be reaching out to other people so that we can assure our other side that's looking to accept to this offer that we can actually do the promises that we're making? So as long as everybody's on the same page and the communication is strong between all parties, that is a winning strategy. And those dates are imperative, 5 to 7 days for inspection. I'm not seeing anything longer than that getting accepted without a lot of pushback, because there are so many great offers out there and so many sight unseen buyers in just infiltrating our market right now that it's not a top priority to them. So we need to be cognizant of that and, handle it as best we can. Competitive timeframes.
Absolutely. Great addition, as always, Alannah. Communication is so important in our process, especially now more than ever in our market. You have to be quick. You have to be answering your phone. You need to respond. If you're not doing that, you're losing time, and time is of the essence, and time is money, and time is contracts, and time is all of it here in our market. So you really have to be on top of it. You need to be with someone an agent and a lender and a title company who is going to communicate with you consistently throughout that process. And I will tell you right now, any of the local professionals on this call will be that person for you. It is just so imperative to have that communication. It's more important than you'll ever know. So great addition, Alannah. And we're going to bring it to the lending side of things, which is always fun, and another super huge part of the process when it comes to this aspect of being a buyer. So where's the money? Show me the money. And we're going to start with Eric Rosberg.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucy, for having me. And Eric and Alannah, this just ties right into exactly what I was going to say. Coming in with the best offer to get accepted. And we talked about basically time to task. How quickly can we get this done? That's going to show strength in your offer. And now you had both talked about the inspection period. You're not seeing anything over 5 to 7 days accepted on an inspection period. Coming to the lending side, now we're talking about appraisal time. So it's very important to make sure your lender is doing a rushed appraisal. That way your appraisal is in within 7 days. Another important time frame, other than the closing, which we'll talk about, is what's called a contingency period. That's the period for when the loan is actually approved. It's through underwriting. It has a conditional approval, and you're good to go. So you want it, the shorter the contingency period is, the better grounds you have to get your offer accepted. Going along with that is a closing period. Now, if you're going to come in and say, hey, I want 45 days to close, your offer is probably not going to get accepted. Now, when you can say 14 to 21 days, we can close this loan, sometimes 10, now you're competing with cash offers. So time to close, we have the appraisal, contingency period, and closing. And I don't want to take too much away from Peggy, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. That was a great little summary of all of those periods within the contract to be aware of, which a lot of people don't realize when they're getting into these contracts, that there are 8 slew of dates that you need to be aware of how things are going to kind of fall in place and fall in line. And if you have a great local professional with you, they're going to give you that timeline. They're going to tell you how things are run. But yes, Eric, great point. And making those as short as possible so that you can be as competitive as possible is definitely an aspect to consider. So we're going to throw it to Peggy, and I'm sure she's going to add even more amazing value to it. So thanks, Peggy, for being here, and take it away.
Yes, absolutely. Peggy Hornick with East Coast Mortgage Lenders. And I've been in the mortgage business for over 38 years. So I've seen every kind of market, and this market is a little crazy, but it is not impossible if you are a first-time home buyer to get into contract. And so some tips that I have is, when you speak with your lender, make sure that you can supply them with your asset documentation, which is your bank statements, and your income documentation, which are your pay stubs, or if you're self-employed, lenders need to see your tax returns before we can even issue a pre-approval. So having that documentation will allow us to give a stronger pre-approval. And in this market, sellers are asking for the automated underwriting approval, which is called a DU, which stands for desktop underwriter, or LP if it's Freddie Mac, but I can certainly provide that. I'm sure Eric can too. I do not give the seller the actual report because it has so much private information on there about the borrower, but I can certify that I have run the loan scenario through the automated underwriting system and have gotten an approval. That will strengthen the contract as well. Also, Eric touched upon shortening that loan commitment period. So normally contracts show maybe 15 to 30 days for loan commitment, but yeah, if you can shorten up that time period where we can get you that underwriting approval within a week, I can certainly do that. But it also is predicated on the buyer providing me their documentation. If you are a buyer in this market, you cannot let one day go without moving that loan forward and moving the ball forward. And so having a local lender that's working with the realtor partner that is moving that transaction forward quickly is so key, because what we're finding is that some online lenders or the big banks, they're not moving that loan forward like your local experienced lenders are, especially when I have realtor partners that I see out and about in our hometown. I'm held accountable. So that's very, very important. The more escrow deposit you have to put down, again, that's very important as well. And don't underestimate the power of writing a letter to the seller. This is if you were a buyer, just to let them know your situation, to let them know how much you love that house, let them know, that your children are going to be going to this school or your particular situation, because sellers do want somebody that they really like to be buying their house and moving in. So a letter to the seller is really an extra key to possibly getting your offer accepted. And so that is my advice.
Awesome, Peggy. Those are some great tips to add in there. And definitely having, that personal touch along with a strong offer. I mean, you can't be having a weak offer and trying to pull out the waterworks. This is not going to really work. They'll just say, I'm sorry. They'll take the extra money and wipe their tears with it. No, I'm just, but great point to bring up too. And one of the strategies I used with my house as well. So with that as well, and I want to add in something from the title side of things, that if you are looking at putting in an offer and such like that, one of the other strategies I used when I was purchasing my house, if you reach out to a title company like us, you can get a title quote of what those costs are going to look like. And title insurance itself within the contract is, and in the offer, is a negotiable factor. So a lot of times as a buyer, if you're taking on that cost from the seller, it's an added bonus to the seller. You're saving them a couple $1,000s. So that's a bonus that you can throw into there with the competitive aspect if you wanted to, if you're speaking with your professionals and that's something that you can do as a buyer. And if you're able to do that, you can actually send them and what we suggest, we have an app and everything that, you know, either your lender or your realtor can utilize, or you yourself can get right on our website, Arrow Title Services or arrowtitlesvcs.com. And when you go to that, you can get a quote that shows what you'd be paying as the buyer if you were paying for title, and then a quote if the seller was paying for title. So then you can send that document with your offer and be like, hey, I'm saving you X amount of dollars by me paying for title insurance. So it gives them a number that they can kind of chew on, like, oh, okay, as well as your competitive offer and everything like that, and just giving them an additional factor to look into. And it looks like your offer is a little bit more put together because you have numbers behind what you're talking about and what you're kind of offering to them. So that's something that we suggest, and we have those tools available on our website that are completely free. So, and I'm always available as well to call. So that's another tip that I want to throw in there when it comes to the title side of things, because a lot of people, we all know this, that a lot of people don't know how the title company is kind of involved in that process, where we kind of come in, and what the heck title insurance even is and how they do that. So we do our best to really educate people on that, as well as, you know, make sure that they know that they have the choice in who they choose for title. So yeah, that's what I wanted to throw in there for that conversation. But I want to open the floor up to a discussion about these competitive offers in the market, because there's definitely a lot that we just touched on, but even going back and forth. And I might want to actually cue a question to the lenders on here. Have you guys gotten calls from sellers or seller agents asking you how strong your buyer is?
Yes. Go, Eric.
So this is actually number 4 that I had on my list, suggestions for strengthening your offer, because you want, sometimes I'll give you a perfect example. I had a client with a VA, and the listing agent wasn't really familiar with a VA loan. And it's in our world, it's the strongest. It's an amazing loan product. This borrower, super qualified, but the listing agent was a little hesitant. It's always good. I suggest it to all my buyer's agents that I work with. Make sure the listing agent has my contact, so I can tell them the strength of the borrower, of the structure of this loan. If there is, because sometimes there's concerns about the appraisal. And so I'm sure Peggy does the same thing. Hey, if it does appraise a little bit less, the borrower is still qualified, and we can still, we've thought ahead, we've structured it. So it's really gonna help with the strength of the offer.
That's great advice, Eric. And I'll just tag on that there was, or there still is, a perception with sellers on VA loans that the sellers have to pay some of the closing costs. And that's not always the case anymore, because now we can, as a lender, I can offer some credits to pay for those non-allowables, which are very few on a VA loan for the buyer to pay. And so in the last 5 years, I've not had one VA loan where the seller had to pay for closing costs. So that's a myth that we can bust right now. And, you know, the only thing with the VA loan products is it's usually 100% financing. So there's not a lot of room for the appraisal to be come in lower. But that's, again, where a call to your lender can verify if they have the funds to bridge that gap. And that's really in any loan and I'm seeing contracts with a clause in it that says that the buyer can bridge a gap of a lower appraisal if so. But yeah, I just think that there's no reason to shy away from FHA or VA buyers. They need homes too. They're really willing. And a lot of times they're easier to qualify than a self-employed borrower, because normally they're just W-2 straight income, easy to verify, and more lenient to get qualified.
Great advice, guys. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I just wanted to touch correct a little thing is the letters to sellers is no longer allowed in our market, at least. It's now considered discriminatory.
Wow, that's interesting.
And it's also incredibly new. We just got this news. I'm glad you hit that, Eric.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's because for the mere fact is, let's say they do write the letter and the seller doesn't choose their offer, they can come back and say, well, it was because of so and so.
Gotcha.
So yeah, now it's considered discriminatory.
Very interesting. And that's why it's important to tune in every single week, guys, because there are things changing every single day in the real estate market. And it's crazy, you know?
Well, and I have to say, I love that addition, Peggy, of the VA loans being a strong loan offer, because we agents are seeing it. We're seeing so much resistance with our sellers not wanting to even broach the subject, let alone ask questions or learn more about it. And we're unfortunately, we're the liaisons of the news, right? We can't make anyone listen. We can't make anyone understand.
And, you know, another thing that I want to bring up too is FHA. A lot of people don't understand like the strength that FHA could have. And a lot of people think that FHA automatically is not good compared to conventional, which as lenders, I know you guys probably would not agree with. So I'll let you guys speak on that in a second, but I actually want to give an example of this too, because we have a lot of for sale by owners who call us, and because we are a title company, you know, if they're going to need a title company to facilitate the transaction. And thankfully, I think we've been seeing a little bit less with the for sale by owners, because I think they're realizing how incredibly crazy it is right now. But for instance, this one for sale by owner that we recently had call was talking, another agent had given them our information, and because they were looking for, it was a buyer with a realtor trying to purchase the property, and they needed a title company. So they reached out, they were asking these questions and everything like that. And they were like, wow, I just really didn't realize this was going to be so crazy. I didn't realize I was going to get all these contracts and people showing the houses. And like, I'm just overwhelmed. And I'm like, yeah, this is kind of why a realtor is really important in this process right now. And he's like, yeah, I know. I just thought I could do it on my own. And I think, you know, they want to do it on their own, whatever it might be. But I did give him the reasons why it was, you know, every single time he was getting to a point, and I'm like, this is why you need a realtor. This is why you need a realtor, you know? But one of the things that he had mentioned was, well, what about FHA? I mean, this buyer has an FHA loan, and I mean, someone was telling me that FHA is bad and I shouldn't take FHA, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like this misconception, right? And I told him, I was like, that's not necessarily true. I told him, you can call the lender. You should call the lender and speak with them and say, hey, is this actually is this person in good standing? What about the appraisal contingency, et cetera, et cetera? And, you know, whether he did that or not, he was very overwhelmed, is upon him, but he definitely had that misconception of the FHA. And I had to tell him, no, like that's not necessarily true. You need to look more into that. Don't just listen to whoever so-and-so is telling you FHA isn't good. So I'd love to open that up to the lenders to kind of defend the FHA.
Yeah, the reason that the perception that FHA is bad is that the appraiser just has to do a couple more things on an FHA appraisal than they do on a conventional. And mainly they have to show that the water is turned on and the electric is turned on. And there has to be, you know, everything has to be in working order. However, an FHA appraisal, they don't have to have appliances in that house. So that's something that's kind of interesting, because what I'm seeing is that a lot of the homes that have kind of been sitting with some repairs needed are falling to the FHA and VA buyers, because that's all that's left on the market. And so that is a little bit of a challenge. I had one just yesterday where there was an air conditioning unit, but it wasn't working. And this was for a VA loan. Well, it does have to be working in order to do a VA loan. But I think first-time homebuyers are more willing to come in and do some of the repairs and overlook some of the maintenance things that maybe another buyer would want. But it really is no different on an FHA loan than a conventional loan. An appraisal is an appraisal.
It's just making sure that it's livable. That's what I
Yes.
told him. I was like, it's just, if your house is livable, it should be fine.
And no safety issues. There there cannot be bars on the windows or broken windows or, electric wires hanging out of the wall. So that's just the common safety issues.
You don't have that in your house, Peggy? Like wires out of the wall? I mean, normal. Eric, do you have anything to add to that?
Peggy, I think you nailed it. The type of loan, it's still going to, if it's a $200,000 house, it's a $200,000 house. There is a little bit of difference. The one thing I will add, so with the VA, it's called a WDO, wood destroying or termite inspection that's done. That's mandatory. That's going to be about the only difference. But again, $200,000 home is $200,000. Just because it's an FHA loan doesn't mean that home's worth 180. They look at a few things a little bit different. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for clearing that up. I think that was very insightful from the lending side of things that people just really don't understand as well. But from the realtor side of things, do you guys have anything to add to the fact of competitive offers from what you guys have heard? I'm sure you have a handful of things to continue.
I just wanted to add, I love the fact of what Peggy was saying is the DU. I use that with my clients as well. Is like, I'll tell the other selling agent, I'll be like, oh, my client's already been through DU. So they're pretty extensive through the process already. So rest assured that I can get this to the closing table. That being said, I think just the other tips that we talked about were beneficial as well.
Yeah, and those DU findings being done in a timely fashion too from your loan officer, just making sure that they're like, if you're putting in a house for this amount, $350 or whatever, getting the DU findings for that, and then same thing with another amount, et cetera, et cetera. If you're putting in different types of offers on different homes, that's the communication, like Alannah said, which leads back into Alannah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny. So in the perfect world, right, where we have an amazing team of professionals and everybody's on the same page with what needs to be done and how to go about doing it, when you've got competitive things in place to protect you from the front end, there's only one thing at that point that can blow up your deal, and that's the client. That's you guys. So it becomes a moment to rise up when we recognize, like, we have everything that we need. Now what we need to do is be decisive. We need to know what we want. We need to decide that we're interested, and this is as far as we'll go. This is as much as we're interested in. This is what we can do. You have a whole team to help you put together that success plan. So when that's ready to be implemented, the only thing that can mess that up is wishy-washy decisions, or I want to think about it, or I need to take some time and consider it. How many of us have been in offer situations where we've got everything we need, and then that time period it takes to chew on a decision before it's made, someone else squeaks in and signs on the dotted line? How many of us have seen people get emotionally attached and lose out? Know that we're very much on your team, and that's the only thing that I'm seeing and experiencing right now that can invalidate those competitive terms. It's the only thing, because we know how to write them. We know what we need to do. We've just laid it all out, and we know how to put it together. So yeah. Trust us. Golly, we're here for you.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. Alannah is absolutely right. Is like, if you're the type of, unfortunately, it's not to like rush your client or pressure them into any situation, but if you're not ready to make a decision on, commit, and you're going to be that type of client in this competitive market to think about it for 2 to 5 days, this probably just isn't the market that you need to be buying in. Unfortunately, it's sad to say, but you're just not ready yet in this market, I would say.
Absolutely. It's like when you walk away from a relationship and you're like, I just need time. It's never a good thing.
Time is still ticking, however long you're thinking.
I have a quick question for Alannah and for Eric on here with the realtors, because I have some clients where I've almost processed their loan like 3 or 4 times with contracts that they have written, but then they end up canceling time and time and again. How do you manage your client that wants you to put in multiple offers at the same time on different properties? Is that allowed? Is that kosher? As long as they can submit a escrow deposit check with that? How do you guys manage that in this crazy market?
Alannah, you want to take
first?
it?
I'll
I'll go
take it,
first.
man. I'll take it, whatever.
We'll figure it out.
So, all right,
Go ahead.
I'll take it. I'll take it. So, Peggy, great question. So, I am the agent. I never mind working hard, right? I will write multiple offers as long as we have the understanding that the terms that we're choosing, we're going with our highest and best the first time. That's the way I like to do it. Like, this is what we have. This is what we're willing to do. I like building in the flexibility with the escalation clause is a great example of that. To illustrate flexibility, but I like to get everything on the table at once. And as long as we're happy with that term, win, lose, accept, decline, then I'm willing to write multiple offers. And the point where I have not gotten multiple offers accepted by the same client at the same time frame in a minute, but in that event, I advise that they choose one. I advise that they request to be the backup offer on the second one and be first in line as a backup because, you know, we express that we're under contract, but we're still very interested in this as our follow-up offer. And in that way, I've managed a couple of times recently with clients to secure them in multiple places and be strategic about it. The drawback when you're working with those clients is making sure that we're managing those expectations. And, you know, at the end of the day, we know what we're talking about, but our clients aren't immersed in it every single day. And so the changing in their mindset where we've already agreed on a game plan, like we're passing the ball, we're on the field, the clock is ticking. What is this pass that you just did? What is this play? This is not what we've discussed. Those are the points where in that multiple offers being put out situation, that's where it gets sticky. And that's where we as agents either pivot or we redirect our clients, or we, after a period of this back and forth, we determine that maybe we're not the best fit because those expectations and the reality of execution are not on the same page. And I mean, Eric, what are you experiencing?
You actually hit it right on the head with it. Is I have no problem doing the work, putting in the offers. I actually was in this situation about 3 weeks ago. Client wanted to put on offers because things were coming up, and he noticed that it was they were going off the market fairly quickly. So we had 8 offers out at one point, and it was it's like you said, as long as they understand the situation that they might go under contract with possibly multiple, but just committing to one and then being a backup for the next one, because you can have that many offers out there, but obviously as the realtor, you want to know exactly which ones are out there still, because if they accept, now you're put in a situation. But
we want to protect their investment, right? We don't want them chalking out escrow checks to multiple different properties. We want them to, at the point where, okay, you've got multiple opportunities here. Where's your heart going? Where's your gut going? Let's go that direction. Let's line up as the second for the next one.
Right. And so at that point, it was just like, all right, I have 8 offers out there. If 2 of them accept, which one are we going to choose? And then all we have to, from what my understanding was, that we just have to tell the other one, unfortunately, we accepted another offer that came in and that we had put out, and we'd like to just be a backup for that one.
That's awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. Because what the common denominator is between you two is not intense, but amazing communication with your clients. Because I've had clients that are working with other agents where they feel pressured just to put an offer in, and they don't really like that house. And so then they end up canceling, and they've been through that, 3 or 4 times. But you guys are amazing professionals.
Give them our number, Peggy. We got you.
I know, that actually listen to your clients. So kudos to you guys.
But that just goes into what we always say in this room is hire a professional, somebody that's going to communicate with you, because for most people, this is the biggest purchase they'll ever make in their life. So hire somebody that's going to communicate with you.
local professional, absolutely. And I'm telling you guys, I've told you guys time and time again, not you guys, everybody else watching out there. Yes, you guys have heard it too. But the people who are on here every single week or whatever it might be, every bi-weekly, whatever, the people who are on these calls educating you guys about these different topics in real estate, they're taking time out of their very busy schedules to make sure that you guys are educated about this so that you guys have the tools to be able to make these educated decisions about the professionals that you're using and making sure that you're getting the actual quality of service that you need to be getting, especially in this crazy market. If you are not getting any of these things that we are talking about, then you need to duck and hide and run and roll away from that situation so that you are getting the best. I've heard so many people have such bad experiences with, realtors, lenders, even title company, just having a good experience, having a good team behind you is going to be so important in making it a smoother process, even if issues come up along the way, and making sure that you guys are being proactive and fixing those issues along the way and making it seamless so that you don't have to stress as much, because it's already it's already a stressful process, and now this market is making it like through the roof, like crazy. So just breathe. Just breathe. And with that, we're going to go into the top tip of the week, which is, this is Thursday's top tips in real estate. So each of these local professionals is going to share with you their number one top tip of the week. We've already gotten some great tips, but we'll see which one that they deem the most important this week. And again, if you guys are just tuning in now, you can always rewatch this on our Arrow Title Services YouTube channel. You can search Arrow Title Services on YouTube and find it. You can rewatch any of our old ones, as well as this one when we are done with it. And we'll put it on and start with Eric G on what's your number one top tip of the week.
Okay, so for full disclosure, I'm going to have to give the top tip and then I'm going to have to jump off. Unfortunately, I got another occasion that I have to attend. So my top tip today is make sure you're communicating with your inspector. If you're going to have a 5-day inspection, make sure they know this, because there's so many people out there that are booking up our inspectors with 0-day inspections, and they just expect them to show up and then they cancel them last minute. So be in communication with your inspectors. It's big. Thank you so much for the platform. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Eric. Love that. That was a great tip. Gonna pass it on to Alannah now. Alannah, please tell us your number one top tip of the week.
Oh, that was a great tip Eric just gave. But my number one tip this week is stick with the plan. Be decisive. When we're ready on the front end, we stick with that plan. We see it through to the finish line. That's how we do.
Love it. Sticking to the plan. Make a plan, follow it. Don't get off track. Love it. Thanks, Alannah. All right, from the lending side of things, Eric, take it away.
So Eric Rosberg, CrossCountry Mortgage. Number one tip, I have a bunch of tips, but I think the number one kind of goes with what Alannah said. When you start off, just slow down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Be prepared, because once you get into it, it's going to be a sprint. Be ready to make that yes or no decision, but just slow down, make sure everything is lined up, and then go for it.
Absolutely. Are you sure it's a sprint? Maybe it's like a run and like tumble. No, I'm just kidding. No.
It's 400 meters.
400, yeah.
It's not
straight
100
to the finish line. 30 days straight. Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Thanks, Eric. That was a great tip. Peggy, what's your number one top tip of the week?
My number one top tip is to go with a local lender that can partner with your realtor, and also ask for that DU approval. That's the underwriting, desktop automated underwriting, and that will strengthen your offer. And then that allows me to know exactly what documentation I need to satisfy the underwriting conditions.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Great tip, Peggy. Thank you. All right, and my top tip of the week is going to be make sure that you are following up on the dates that you are agreeing to on these contracts, that you are well aware of them, and that with all the professionals that you know that you're working with, your lender, your realtor, the title company, making sure that all parties are being communicated with. When you get a call from your title company, answer so that we can get the information from you and continue the process along, and make sure that everything is taken care of, as well as making sure that you call and maybe talk to your title company about how long things are taking on the title side of things, because there are some third-party sources with lien searches and getting title searches and such like that take time. There's a lot of buildup in the industry right now, and making sure that everybody's time frames work out with each other is very important in the process. So we do our absolute best to get everything done as soon as possible. The honor before dates is a really great thing that we love seeing, because we can always work towards it being earlier, but having that final date always there in the contract as well. So that's my number one top tip of the week, is communication, essentially, which is always a great one, and making sure that you're communicating with everyone, especially if there are changes on the contract that happen throughout the process. So that's mine. And thank you guys for your amazing tips. And we are going to go to the third portion of this, which is any announcements that you guys have. So I know you guys always have things going on. It's crazy right now. And I love hearing all the things you guys have coming up. So does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to make?
No, we are ready and available. This market desperately needs great professionals on your team. So look at all of us and write down our numbers. Let's talk.
There you go. Love it.
I'm going to give a thank you for the announcement, because I hadn't heard about the letters, not be the letters to the seller. So that's a great announcement. I don't know how, I haven't seen it anywhere, but thank you, Alannah. And
I heard that
I think it came through our brokerage feed, not necessarily through the NAR or the RAPB feed. I don't know that with certainty, but that's where I believe I read it as well. So it's very, very fresh. So we're all learning together, right?
Absolutely. I think it was actually this week, because I heard someone mention it earlier this week, but I thought it was something that was being considered, not something that was 100% not available anymore. So to know that it's finalized is very important. And those things are changing all the time in the real estate market. So that's why these top tips in real estate are always great to hear and keep on the forefront of. There's a reason we do this all the time, because things are moving very rapidly at a sprint pace, like Eric would say. So thank you guys so much for coming on here and sharing your big brains in real estate. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on. And thank you to everybody who's watching. If you guys are just tuning in now, make sure that you rewatch the episode that we just did about competitive offers in our market right now. Real estate is really, really a crazy period right now, but it is possible. Do not lose hope. You just have to have a good team behind you, and once you have that good team, you'll be set. You'll get all of the tools that you need, and as long as you got those tools in your toolbox, you'll be a very good handyman. So I don't know why I'm throwing out analogies right now, but that's fine. So thank you guys for being on here. Don't forget, you guys, we will be back in 2 weeks with another Thursday Top Tips in Real Estate with another amazing topic that we haven't touched on before. We have all of our previous Thursdays Top Tips for the last year on our YouTube channel, Arrow Title Services. And we have our upcoming Market Update Monday, which is a great way to hear from the listing side of things, how things are going from that perspective. If you're not a buyer, maybe you're a seller. So stay tuned for that on our page, like and follow and all that jazz. And don't forget to check out these professionals and their Facebook pages, because they always have great information going out there too with updates like that. So thank you guys for being on here. We will see you guys again in a few weeks, and have an amazing rest of your week.